Hey guys, today I've got an interesting topic to dive into, taxes. Yeah, no, not the most exciting subject, however it is an important consideration for many people who may be looking overseas and saying, perhaps it could be a good idea. In the past, I've made cost of living videos comparing the cost of everyday life in the US, Canada, UK, Australia, and Southeast Asia. In this video, I'll be turning the tables and looking at salaries and taxes at common expatriate cities for Kiwis around the world. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to my channel down below to keep up to date on all my future content in the personal finance and investing space. Let's start by understanding our base case, the tax system here in Aotearoa. Broadly speaking, our taxes here are pretty simple. When you earn, there are three components of tax. The first and the most prominent is income tax, or PAYE, which is a progressive form of tax. As the higher your salary goes, so too does your rate of taxation. The second is ACC, which is a capped flat charge which covers every New Zealander in the case of an accident or injury, no matter who is at fault. The third, which is less common, is a fringe benefit tax, which applies in situations where you receive additional benefits above and beyond your salary, including stock options, a company car, that kind of thing. So that covers what you pay when you earn. When you spend, our system is also very simple. We have a broad-based goods and services tax, which applies to pretty much everything you purchase. While overseas, there are often exceptions, such as on fresh fruit and sanitary products in Australia. There are also excise taxes on cigarettes, alcohol, and fuel. And finally, there is a flat corporate tax rate, as there is in much of the world. In this video, we'll just be covering the high-level income tax and GST equivalents. Now let's take a little trip around the globe and see how New Zealand stacks up against many other countries. Many of these countries have different taxes across different cities or even states, so I've split many of these up. I'll be comparing London in the United Kingdom, Los Angeles in the United States, Singapore in, of course, Singapore, Sydney in Australia, and Toronto in Canada. This covers the main expatriate centres for the New Zealand diaspora. Taking data from the OECD in 2021, the United States has the highest average wage in our study at $74,000. Singapore unfortunately wasn't in the study, but if it were, it would likely be around this mark too. Trailing behind is Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, and New Zealand, in that order. So on the income front, New Zealand trails its peers in this study. Let's jump into the relevant tax systems in each of the peer cities. Just like in New Zealand, the UK has a progressive income tax with marginal rates of taxation increasing as salary increases. They also have national insurance, which is their way of funding their pension and benefit schemes. On the spending side, the UK has a value-added tax, which is similar to GST. However, this runs at 20% versus GST's 15% here in New Zealand. Over in the United States, taxes are a lot more complicated. In Los Angeles, you have a federal tax and a state tax, each with different rates tables. When I went looking for the state tax table you see here, no joke, it was on a web page with over 27,000 words. After that, you have Social Security, Medicare, state disability insurance, and state mental health services act tax. So while in New Zealand and the UK we have 2 income taxes, here, they have 6. Over on the spending side, they have a whopping 3 different taxes, with a state, a local, and a suburb sales tax running at 6%, 1.25%, and in LA County, another 3% slapped on, adding up to 10.25%. They sure don't make things easy. In Singapore, they have a simple progressive system, just like New Zealand, working from income band thresholds. They also have a superannuation scheme that citizens must pay into, which absorbs 20% of the first $6,000 of salary that they earn each month. On the spending side, there is a flat rate of GST at 8%. Moving over to Sydney, in Australia there are 2 income taxes payable, simple income tax as we have here, and a Medicare levy, which acts as a universal healthcare contribution. On the spending side, their GST rate is 10%. And finally, we have Toronto in Canada, which is perhaps more complicated than what was used in California. They have a federal and a provincial income tax rate, followed by a surtax on top of the provincial rates. Following that, there's a health premium to be paid, a pension plan contribution, and finally, employment insurance. That's 6 different deductions from your gross pay. They also have a sales tax, interestingly called the harmonised sales tax of 13%. Let's now compare all 6 cities. Starting with a salary of 50,000 New Zealand dollars, here you can see the different incidents of tax as a local in each city. New Zealand's average tax rate here is 17.6%, putting it in 3rd position behind Toronto at 21.1% and Los Angeles at 19.7%. London was slightly behind New Zealand at 16.1%, Sydney at 14.4%, while Singapore was all the way down at under 1%. I can guarantee this, as that's the rate that I was paying in my graduate job. However, they do have a compulsory scheme called CPF, which requires employees to pay in 20% of their salary, or $1,200 a month, whichever is greatest. There are some insurance covers, such as MediShield, within this. However, these are relatively insignificant as compared to other cities studied. So clearly, those in Singapore pay the lowest rates of tax in this study. Moving on to a salary of 100,000 New Zealand dollars, Kiwis pay an average tax rate of 25.4%. Again, in the third highest position, behind LA at 27% and Toronto at 25.7%. You're starting to see why so many Californians are moving to other states. Sydney is slightly lower than New Zealand at 24.4%. London at 24.1%, and Singapore again all the way down at 3.1%. The final comparison in my study is comparing a salary of $1 million. Given this list of the highest paid executives in New Zealand, there are likely very few people paying such a high tax here. Surprisingly, New Zealand has among the lowest top marginal tax rates for salaried workers. As you can see, our placing here is second lowest. Singapore is the only city with a lower rate at 20.2%. Next highest is Sydney at 43.9%, then LA at 44.3%, then London at 45%, and finally Toronto at 49.1%. So there you have it. The taxes we pay here in New Zealand are about mid-pack for the average salaried worker. Given that the average salary too is lower in New Zealand, the story of New Zealand being a low-wage, high-tax country seems to be about right. It is obvious why so many Kiwis live abroad for economic reasons, and this study shows the potential advantages of doing so. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe to my channel down below to see more content just like this in the personal finance and investing space. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to catching you on the next one. Cheers.